I can still hear the sound of oil popping in the skillet from the exact moment my life split in two, not because of a scream, not because of a fight, but because of the crooked little smile my husband tried to hide while someone else was texting that they missed him. It was that night, in that hot kitchen, that I realized the worst kind of betrayal isn't the one that explodes. It's the one that simmers on low heat while you keep believing everything is fine. Jordan was right there, shaking the pan like nothing in the world could touch him. But his phone was buzzing against the counter, and it felt like it was buzzing inside my chest, too. Over the years, I'd already learned there's a kind of silence that isn't peace, it's punishment. He used it like someone sharpening a knife. He didn't raise his voice, he just erased me slowly, the way you turn the flame down until it's almost invisible. And that night, his silence was so calculated it hurt. As I watched him from the side, an old memory stabbed its way back in. My 40th birthday. The house was full, he was cracking jokes with everybody, laughing loud in the living room, and I was in the kitchen setting the table. When he made a toast, he didn't even say my name. Later, when I brought it up, all he said was, "You always take everything so personally, Naya." That day, I swallowed the hurt along with the cake. That night, watching him smile at his phone, I realized that toast had already been a warning. I just didn't want to see it. Right there in front of me, he was offering his physical presence, but all his emotional energy was somewhere else. On his phone, with the person who made him smirk to himself like he was saving the best parts of who he was for someone who wasn't me. It's strange how we pick up on these micro expressions. Even after years of being ignored, your body still recognizes what's off, what's hidden, what looks like longing, even when that longing is never for you. When he read the message, "I miss you," it was like finding a huge crack in a wall I'd been pretending was solid. It wasn't just jealousy. I didn't want to be the one who wrote that text. I just wanted him, at least once in his life, to have missed me that much. Not on my birthdays, not when I came home exhausted from taking care of my sick mother, not when I cried alone in the car. There was never an "I miss you" from him, not once. I just stood there, dish towel in hand, feeling the kitchen slowly start to spin around me. The pan sizzling, the smell of garlic browning, the warm yellow light. Everything else carried on like usual. I was the only thing in that room that could no longer pretend it was just another normal night. I grabbed his phone because something in me, something I'd kept buried even from myself, finally stood up. It wasn't impulse, it was saturation. It was the sum of years of hearing pans, doors, footsteps, but not hearing my own name said with affection. My hand didn't shake when I picked up that phone. The part of Naya that still wanted to believe it's not what it looks like was the one trembling. When I opened the chat, I realized it wasn't just some coworker. It was someone who was getting from him everything I'd been begging for in silence. Attention, intimacy, those long late-night messages, the quick voice notes on his work breaks, the emojis he never used with me. All of it told a story I didn't write, but that cut through me as if I had. I shook, not from jealousy, but from clarity. It was like opening an old drawer and finding letters that were never written for you, but whose absence you'd felt your whole life. And as I scrolled through the screen, one question kept gnawing at me from the inside. At what point did I stop being the place he comes home to and become just the backdrop for where he hides what he really feels? That's when I did the unthinkable. I went back to the message that said, "I miss you," and I replied, "Then come." My finger didn't shake, my inner voice did, but for the first time in years, it wasn't silenced by fear of him. It wasn't movie scene courage, it was the exhaustion of someone who spent too long swallowing everything down. For a few seconds, Jordan didn't notice. He kept stirring the pan like nothing had happened, until the phone buzzed again. This time, the sound cut through the air like it split the kitchen in half. He looked at the screen, and for the first time in a long time, I saw something break inside him. His pupils widened, his jaw clenched, his breathing hitched. He wasn't the man in control anymore. He was a man exposed. "I'm coming," said the reply from his coworker. And in that instant, I understood something that had always slipped through my fingers. It's not the abandonment that hurts. It's the effort we make not to see the truth. I remember the time I came back from 3 days at the hospital taking care of my mother, and the only thing he asked was whether I'd picked up his prescription. No, "I missed you." No, "How are you holding up?" Back then, I told myself, that's just how he is. Now, staring at that "I'm coming" glowing on the screen, I finally realized he was always capable of missing someone. It just was never me. Jordan turned towards me, but he couldn't get any words out. The pan was burning on the stove behind him, smoke rising like an old fire, the kind that starts small and spreads when nobody's looking. I felt that this moment was the spark on something that had been quietly lit for years. I took a slow breath, feeling the floor solid under my feet, and for the first time, I wasn't the one shrinking. He stood there frozen, as if he finally understood that I saw everything that I'd always seen. And along with the pain, something else began to surface in me. A strange, bitter kind of relief, like someone had finally yanked the sheet off a body I already knew was cold. Before he could throw out any excuse, any rehearsed line, any convenient lie, one thought crossed my mind. If he thinks he owns silence, today he's going to learn the weight of mine. And I had no idea the worst was still waiting to be revealed when that door finally opened. After that night, while "I'm coming" still pulsed on his phone screen like a silent thunderclap, something inside me started to reorganize the years that had led up to that moment. Because that, his hidden smile, that lit up message, that quick glance away, wasn't the beginning of the story. It was the result, the fruit of an emotional ground that had been drying up right in front of me, while I watered a marriage he'd stopped touching a long time ago. The next morning, the house looked the same, but I didn't. The light coming into the kitchen had the same warm yellow tone as always, but it hit differently. It seemed to illuminate details I hadn't wanted to see. Jordan was sitting at the table, drinking his coffee in that same usual posture, body leaning toward his phone, eyes down, fingers scrolling with familiar ease. I knew him so well, and yet I had never felt so far away from him. As I watched him, old memories started dripping in, like raindrops on a worn roof, each one finding a place that now finally made sense. I remembered the time he got home late on our anniversary. I had made dinner, lit candles, put on music. He walked in smelling like a perfume that wasn't mine. When I asked if everything was okay, he snapped, "Don't be so dramatic, Naya. It was just a long day." I ate alone that night, and while I washed the dishes, I kept telling myself I was overreacting, that every marriage goes through phases. The truth is, I was trying to save a structure he had already let fall apart. Then, there was another moment, so small I'd almost forgotten. The day I lost my job. I came home crushed, thinking he'd hug me, offer some comfort, but all he said was, "You should have seen that coming. Now you'll just have to hustle." I swallowed that pain like learning to chew rocks. Months later, when his boss praised him, he celebrated like it was a lifetime achievement award. All his validation came from the outside, and everything I gave him might as well have been invisible. These flashes felt like my own memory settling a score. It was as if my body, finally awake, was telling me, "You always knew." And maybe I did. Maybe I'd learned to live off crumbs because at some point, someone convinced me crumbs were a feast, and that complaining about hunger was being ungrateful. In the days after that message blew everything open, Jordan started acting strange. Nothing explosive, nothing dramatic. He got quieter, not the usual silence, but a different one. Uncomfortable, restless. He watched me like he was measuring the room. He tried to anticipate my mood, my questions, my moves. I had never seen Jordan behave like a man who was afraid, at least not of me. And while he tried to hide, I started paying attention to everything, not out of blind suspicion, but out of clarity. It was like that sentence, "I miss you," had become a magnifying glass, pulling every micro injustice into focus. Things that once felt isolated, now lining up as part of a long, exhausting pattern. I noticed, for example, that his mood always shifted depending on when his phone buzzed. Sometimes, when I brought up something about work, the future, bills, he'd yawn, shut down, go flat. But the second his screen lit up, his whole face changed from the inside out. Like my presence drained him and someone else's lit him up. I started watching it happen like I was piecing together a puzzle, not out of rage, out of emotional survival. I also realized how much my entire routine revolved around him, while his revolved around something else, something I still couldn't name. I'd find myself doing dishes while he laughed quietly at something on his phone, making the bed while he typed away, hiding the screen, trying to talk while he answered messages with a sense of urgency he never had for me. And in the middle of all that, I noticed one detail that cut me open with a strangely delicate cruelty. The entire house had more signs of his presence than mine. His clothes took up more space. His things were out, visible, dominant. Mine were tucked away in drawers, boxes, corners. And for a moment, it hit me that the house reflected exactly how I'd been living, squeezed into the limits he gave me, shrinking where I wouldn't bother him, going quiet anywhere he wanted to rule. On the third day after that message, something simple, so simple it almost slipped past me, confirmed everything inside me. Jordan came home wearing the same scent I'd smelled on the night of our forgotten anniversary. I recognized it instantly. It wasn't mine, it wasn't new, it was repeated, it was history. And before I could say anything, he handed me a takeout container and said, "Got this for you in case you didn't make anything." His tone sounded generous, but the sentence itself was poison. He didn't know if I had eaten. He didn't know if I was okay. He didn't even know what time I'd gotten home from work. Jordan only fulfilled roles. He didn't notice people. Standing there with that container in my hand, I realized something painful and freeing all at once. I had been alone for a very long time, even while sleeping next to someone. That night, I didn't sleep. I spent hours staring into the darkness above me, and for the first time in many years, I didn't cry. I just understood. It wasn't that Jordan had changed, it was that I was finally seeing clearly. The truth had always been there. I was just busy trying to save what he had already abandoned. And then another memory came back, so gentle it hurt. The time I asked him if he loved me. Yes, I asked, and he answered, "Of course I do, but that doesn't have to be a topic every day, right?" Back then, I accepted that. Today, I see the truth. Someone who loves you isn't afraid to say it more than once. And it was in that mix of memories, patterns, silences, and stacked up micro-injustices that the next step started to form inside me. I didn't know yet what it would look like, but I knew something was about to change for good. Because once a woman really sees, she doesn't unsee. And at that point, I was seeing everything. After that night, when Elijah's name flashed across the microwave's reflection like a secret I was never meant to witness, my mind slipped into a state I can only describe as hyper-awareness. It wasn't paranoia. It wasn't jealousy. It was a necessary, uncomfortable clarity. Like when a doctor finally shines the right light on a wound and you realize it had always been there, just worse than you imagined. Jordan thought he was being careful. But men who grow used to emotional cheating all make the same mistake. They underestimate the woman they believe they've already lost. And that underestimation would become the very trail he left behind. The next day, I started noticing patterns that I used to dismiss as routine. Now, they were signs. I didn't have to dig deep. The evidence was scattered across the house like breadcrumbs left by someone who'd stopped trying to hide the path completely. The first sign came early. Jordan had always left his phone on the charger, but that week, he didn't let it out of his hand, not even to go to the bathroom. He carried it around like it was a body part. To someone not looking closely, that seems like caution. To someone who's just witnessed emotional infidelity up close, it's fear. Fear of being found out. Fear of losing what he's hiding. fear of the truth acting like a mirror. While he showered, I noticed his towel smelled like floral soap, something I would never buy. A hot sting hit my stomach. Not pain, recognition. Once I started watching him with new eyes, everything made sense. Another sign came at lunch. He usually ate fast, distracted, eyes glued to his phone. But that day, every time the screen lit up, his whole body shifted. His shoulders lifted, his breath changed, his eyes looked more alive. I'd seen that look only a handful of times and rarely directed at me. It was the same expression he had when he spoke to Elijah on speakerphone months ago, long before I'd even suspected anything. And that memory hit hard. One afternoon, he called me into the room to hear a work joke. He put the call on speaker, and Elijah was on the other end, laughing at something that wasn't funny at all. But Jordan laughed with him, laughed in a way I hadn't heard in years. Back then, I smiled along. Today, that laugh returned as a warning I had ignored. From that moment on, any detail could be a clue, and many were. I started noticing how often he disappeared inside the house. He'd go to the bedroom to rest, yet faint notification sounds slid out from under the door. He'd take his phone into the bathroom and stay too long. It wasn't the time itself, it was what came after, the way he came out breathing deeper as if returning to the wrong world. During one of those bathroom trips, I found the second symbolic object, a small candy wrapper tucked neatly inside the trash. Imported, a brand he'd never buy. The kind of little gift someone brings during a quick meetup, something that didn't belong there. When I picked it up, a chill traveled through my arm. It's strange because when cheating is only a suspicion, your body trembles. When it becomes clear, your body hardens. Another clue surfaced 2 days later, when Jordan left to handle something from work. He didn't ask my opinion, didn't say where he was going, didn't ask if I needed anything. He just left. But what really caught my attention was the scent he left in the hallway, the same sweet perfume I'd smelled on the night of our forgotten anniversary. He didn't catch the pattern, I did. That afternoon, while doing laundry, I found a folded napkin tucked in his jacket with a phone number written on it, an area code from another city. Not Elijah's number, another one. And that's when my world tilted into something even heavier. Because until then, I believed, or tried to believe, that the emotional affair was only with Elijah. But the truth was appearing like a dropped photo album scattering uncomfortable images across the floor, and every picture had something in common. I was in none of them. With each discovery, I expected to feel rage, the urge to scream, to break things, to call him out. But what I felt was sharpness, a cold, clinical sharpness, as if my heart was too exhausted to explode. The truth didn't arrive like a storm, it arrived like snow. Quiet, steady, impossible to ignore once it accumulated. In that clarity, I chose to observe not just Jordan, but Elijah too. I began noticing how Elijah behaved whenever we crossed paths meaning moments I never used to question. The way he lowered his gaze when he heard my name, how he changed the subject when someone mentioned my marriage, the way he smiled at Jordan with a strange kind of softness, intimate, complicit. That smile haunted me now. And then came the moment that cemented my suspicions and pushed me fully into silent investigation. Jordan stepped outside to take a call, assuming I wouldn't notice. But what gave everything away wasn't his voice, it was his silence. The silence of someone listening to something important. A silence heavy with anticipation, with emotion. The kind of silence people only give when they're receiving emotional reinforcement, when they're invested. I stood behind the door frozen, not because I wanted to catch everything at once, but because if I made a sound, he'd change his behavior, and I needed truth before he rearranged the pieces. When he came back in, I casually asked who it was. He said, "Just a client." But his hand trembled slightly. A tiny tremor, so small only someone deeply wounded would notice, was all the proof I needed. And that night, as I lay beside him pretending to sleep, a quiet decision began forming inside me. I was going to find the whole truth. Carefully, intelligently, with dignity. And once I found it, nothing would ever be the same. When Elijah's name glowed across the screen reflected on the microwave, it felt as if the floor slid a few inches backward beneath my feet. Not enough to knock me down, but enough to force me to steady myself. It was the first time Jordan actually looked surprised that I was noticing something. He'd always assumed that because I spoke little, I perceived little. But that night, he learned that quiet women are not submissive. They are observant. He locked the screen too fast. And that gesture, small, urgent, almost panicked, was the first real blow. A signal as loud as a shout. And for the first time in a very long time, I didn't look away. "Jordan," I said, my voice low, steady, almost too calm for the moment. "Who is Elijah? Really?" He froze. Just that. Froze. His shoulders halted mid-movement. His neck tightened. His hand, still holding the phone, trembled just enough to reveal a crack in the mask. "He's just a coworker," he said, but he didn't meet my eyes. And that's when I realized something else. Jordan wasn't just lying. He was afraid. Not afraid of losing me. I had long accepted that I wasn't the center of his emotional world. He was afraid of losing control of the narrative. And that fear, yes, was new. I stepped toward him. He stepped back, half a step, involuntary. That movement alone was the second truth. "If he's just a coworker," I said, "then read it." I placed his phone on the table where we'd had so many quiet dinners, the table where I wished he'd ask how my day was, the table where the truth would finally have to sit with us. Read the conversation out loud. Jordan drew a shaky breath, trying to slip into that rational tone he always used to make me feel like I was the one exaggerating. But his breathing was off, too short coming in, too hot going out. "Naya, you're going too far." "No, I'm going far enough." For a moment, there was silence. But not his silence, mine. And my silence had always scared him more than my arguments. Jordan unlocked the phone like someone disabling a bomb, slow, hesitant, hoping time would run out first. When he opened the chat, Elijah's recent messages lit up the screen, long, intimate messages written with the kind of sincerity he'd never given me. "I wish you'd stayed last night. I'm tired of hiding like this. I make me feel alive." I didn't break. I didn't cry. I simply understood. I understood years. I understood silences. I understood closed doors. I understood laughter meant for someone else. I understood Jordan wasn't just empty with me, he was overflowing for someone else. "Keep reading," I said. He couldn't. His voice cracked. His throat tightened. So I pressed the audio message myself. Elijah's voice filled the kitchen with an intimacy raw enough to strip any lie bare. "I don't know how much longer you can keep lying to her. She doesn't deserve this." That was what hurt the most. Not the betrayal, but Elijah's compassion for me while he participated in excluding me, like I was a spectator in my own story. Jordan snatched the phone, frantic. "This doesn't mean anything," he said, but his hands were shaking so hard he nearly dropped it. "Right, it means nothing. That's why you two plan meetups, trade confessions, share longing." Elijah took a step forward. I should go," he muttered. And that was when the first amplified twist revealed itself. Not because Elijah wanted to protect me, but because his face showed clearly that there was more to uncover. Something Jordan was terrified might come out. I turned to Elijah, calm in a way that felt like steel warming in a forge. "Stay. You're leaving too early." Beside him, Jordan tensed, his whole body stiff. "No," Jordan said abruptly, too fast. "He doesn't need to stay." That reaction, wanting Elijah gone, was the biggest sign yet. Jordan didn't want Elijah to talk because Elijah knew. And then it happened. Elijah exhaled, running a hand over his face, as though carrying something heavy. Naya, he's not just involved with me. The entire universe went quiet. My body went quiet. Even the house seemed to hold its breath. What do you mean? I asked, my voice not weak, precise. Jordan reached toward Elijah like someone trying to keep a cliff from collapsing. Elijah, shut up! Too late. There was someone else before me, Elijah said, guilt softening his voice. This started way before I came along. My heart beat once, hard, then silence. Not his silence, mine. And inside that silence, a revelation bloomed. I didn't lose Jordan. Jordan was never mine. He was a man handing out affection like tokens, always to people far enough away that intimacy wouldn't demand depth. I had blamed myself for years, and the truth was, none of this came from my lack. It came from his excess fear, excess emptiness, excess cowardice. Jordan stepped toward me, eyes wide, breathing unsteady. Naya, we can nothing. My voice cut through him. For the first time, he actually heard me. I stepped back, creating a space that wasn't physical, it was emotional. Space to finally see clearly. You both made your choices. Now it's my turn. And in that moment, something ancient inside me awakened. Not the strength to confront someone, the strength to stop begging for love. Jordan, you didn't lose me today. You lost me the day you decided I didn't deserve the truth. The silence that followed wasn't uncomfortable, it was liberating. I turned my back on them and left them standing there, two men folded beneath the weight of their own choices, while I walked away carrying only what was mine, my dignity. When I walked out of that kitchen, leaving Jordan and Elijah drowning in their own panic, something cut through me like a hot blade. I wasn't shaking. Inside, yes, there was a storm gathering, a mix of rage, grief, and disbelief trying to take shape. But on the outside, I was silence. A new kind of silence. Not the one he used to punish me with. Mine wasn't avoidance, strength. I closed the bedroom door gently, like sealing a pact with myself. My heart was racing, but there was a solid center inside me I had never felt before. It was as if, for the first time, I'd stepped fully into my own life, without asking permission, without apologizing for taking up space. I sat on the bed and let my mind run, not searching for explanations, just recognizing patterns. Betrayal doesn't begin when the message appears, it begins when the eyes wander. And Jordan's eyes had wandered a long time ago. As I tried to sort my thoughts, memories I had shoved into internal drawers like objects that hurt to touch began surfacing without my permission. I remembered the night I had a high fever and asked him to get me some water. He said, "Nia, you need to learn not to depend so much." I got up with my body aching, almost stumbling down the hall, while he stayed on the couch watching the game. I didn't cry that night. I just got the water, took the medicine, and went to sleep with my body burning and my heart frozen. Another memory hit like a spark. Years ago, I asked if he thought we still had a connection, and he said, "Connection doesn't pay bills, Nia. Grow up." That should have been a sign. But I was in love, or rather, I was committed to a fantasy where love survived everything, even emotional abandonment. Now, in the dark bedroom, I saw the truth clearly. I had carried our marriage on my back, while he used his hands to hold on to everyone else. Slowly, I noticed my breathing was too deep, my body trying to process an avalanche. His betrayal had two layers: emotional infidelity and the revelation that I wasn't the only woman replaced. Elijah wasn't an exception, he was a continuation, and there had been another before him, maybe more. The more I thought about it, the more my fear changed shape. It wasn't fear of losing him, it was fear of losing myself again. And that's when clarity came. Slowly, but it came. I needed a plan. Not a dramatic, impulsive revenge fantasy, a silent plan. Coherent, strategic, emotionally intelligent. Jordan always counted on my collapse. He expected me to scream, cry, accuse, because then he could slip into the role he loved, the calm, rational husband dealing with the overreacting wife. But this time, there would be no scene, no spectacle, no ammunition for his narrative. My plan would be born from silence, the same silence he once used against me, now returning with surgical precision. As I thought, I heard muffled voices from across the house. Jordan and Elijah arguing, not loudly, quietly, desperately. The kind of whispers men don't want their wives to hear, full of, "Why did you say that?" and "I told you to wait." Those whispers hit harder than any shout. They were afraid, not of the truth, of exposure. Jordan didn't open the bedroom door, didn't call my name, didn't try to explain. He drifted through the house like a man trying to gather pieces of a vase already shattered. But in doing so, he only revealed another truth. Our marriage was a stage, and he had just lost control of the script. I took a deep breath and decided I wouldn't sleep here tonight, but I wouldn't run. Running is for people who flee. I wasn't fleeing. I was leaving, and those are very different things. I stood, picked up my phone, and began documenting everything. Messages, timestamps, screenshots, audio clips, details he could erase with a single touch. It wasn't paranoia, it was protection. Jordan always relied on my blind trust. Now I understood the cost of seeing with open eyes. As I saved the evidence, a memory surfaced, a line I once heard from an older woman in a supermarket line years ago. When a woman discovers the truth, she never goes back to being the same, and that's the best thing that can happen to her. I'd stored that sentence away without understanding it. Tonight, it finally made sense. My silent plan took shape. Don't confront more than needed. He didn't deserve my emotional labor. Collect evidence and protect my version of events. I needed emotional and practical safety. Create emotional distance from him. Without distance, there's no clarity. Without clarity, there is no decision. And decision is power. Observe everything before walking away. Pain had crushed me for years. Now it sharpened me. While I finished saving files, I heard footsteps outside the door. Jordan stopped there. Didn't knock, didn't call my name, just stood. Symbolic. He'd always approached me only to ensure I stayed where he put me, never to reach me. I sat on the bed and felt a strange calm spreading through me. Not the peace of relief, the peace of decision. I was leaving. Not tonight, but soon, and this time without hesitation. When I finally heard the front door close, Elijah leaving, the faint sensation of freedom rose quietly inside me, almost like innocence, but layered with caution. And in that still mix of fear and strength, I understood. My life isn't over. My marriage is, and my life is just beginning. This would carry me straight to the next step, the step that would change everything. When I finally walked out of the bedroom, hours later, the house was wrapped in a thick, heavy silence that felt almost physical. The floor was cool beneath my feet, and the lingering heat from the kitchen clung to the air, as if the space itself still remembered what had just happened, a truth too big to be pushed back into the dark. Jordan was sitting at the table, hands clasped, head down, looking like a man awaiting a verdict. He lifted his eyes slowly when he saw me, but he couldn't hold the gaze. Guilt is heavy, but fear weighs even more. And right then, I saw him feel the weight of his choices for the first time. "Can we talk?" he asked quietly, his voice thin and controlled, leaking emotion at the edges. I didn't answer. I wasn't there to soften anything. He inhaled deeply, trying to slip into that calm, rational tone he always used when twisting reality, turning my pain into misunderstanding. "Nia, Sometimes things just get out of control. I thought I could manage it. I never wanted to hurt you. That was his first mistake, speaking like I was watching a movie he directed instead of living in the consequences of his actions. So why did you keep going? I asked, my voice steady, unraised. He dragged a hand down his face, quick, tense, searching for an answer that didn't exist. Because I felt alone. Alone. That word seared through my chest like hot metal. Alone while I was right there every day. Alone while I tried to talk, to reconnect, to salvage celebrations. Alone while I shrank myself to fit into a marriage with no room for me. But I didn't explode. Shock didn't need to come from me. It would come from the truth itself. Elijah told me something important, I said, watching him like someone watching a flame catch. He said it wasn't only with him. Jordan froze. The muscles in his neck tightened. His breath stalled. He blinked twice, the tiny reflex of someone trying and failing to rearrange a lie. Elijah exaggerated, Jordan said quickly. You know how dramatic he is. I tilted my head slightly, a gesture that said I was done being steered. So tell me now, who came before? He tried to smile, a weak, trembling thing that died before it formed. He was a man used to slipping through cracks, but for the first time, there were none. I wasn't cushioning his fall. I let him hit the floor of the truth. When he didn't answer, I said, I heard the message. I don't know how long you can keep lying to her. That sentence didn't start yesterday. He went pale, literally, color drained from his face. And that was when the double twist began to surface, not as suspicion, but as revelation. Jordan stood slowly, palms pressed against the table as if he needed support. His voice came out rough. Fine. Yes, there was someone else before Elijah. I stayed silent, though I felt some deeper part of me pull away from him for good. Who? I asked. He hesitated. The hesitation was the answer. Amanda, from work. I already knew. The way he talked about her, the sudden overtime, the overly warm tone whenever her name came up. Everything he withheld from me, he gave freely elsewhere. It was just talking. I swear, nothing. Jordan. Just his name. My tone made him swallow the lie whole. He sighed, defeated. Okay, it wasn't just talking. And there it was, the full truth, without shadow, without excuse. He didn't lose control recently. He never had control in our marriage. He only had control over me, as long as I refused to see. The pain didn't hit like a knife. It washed over me like release. Because the deeper betrayal wasn't Elijah. It was knowing I had spent years receiving leftovers from someone who gave his best, his attention, his tenderness, his energy to everyone else. I sat in the chair across from him, holding the firmest posture I'd ever had in front of this man. Jordan, give me one reason that actually makes sense. He shook his head, desperate, scrambling for words that didn't exist. Nia, I was empty. I needed to feel wanted. I don't know. I almost laughed, not because it was funny, because it was pathetic, and because clarity leaves no room for carrying someone else's weight. So you decided I was the place to dump your emptiness while you filled everyone else? He reached for my hand, but I pulled back before he touched me. That broke him. He sank back down. The confident man was gone. In his place sat someone finally realizing he'd lost what he believed would always stay. Nia, I can change. I'll do whatever you want. I don't want to lose you. His words fell between us like shards of glass. Too late. Far too late. You're not afraid of losing me, I said calmly. You're afraid of losing what I represented. He frowned. And what do you think you represented? I took a breath. A harbor where you could show up dirty with your choices and still be welcomed. His expression collapsed because he knew it was true. And that's when the emotional catharsis finally came. Not loud, not messy, but sharp and clean. Jordan, you gave your love to other women, your attention to other stories, your tenderness to other screens. But do you know what you spent on me? My time. He lowered his head. And time, I continued, is the one thing I can't get back. The silence that followed wasn't heavy. It was final. I stood, and the sentence that came out of me wasn't rehearsed. It simply rose, whole and undeniable. You didn't lose me today, Jordan. You lost me the day you stopped choosing me. I just realized it now. I walked out of the kitchen feeling a kind of freedom that almost felt dangerous, but belonged entirely to me. And he stayed behind, staring into the emptiness he had built. Leaving that kitchen after his confession felt like walking through a narrow hallway between two lives, the one I had endured and the one I was finally ready to build. There was no audience, no applause, no movie soundtrack. Just me, my steady steps, my exhausted heart, and a new certainty. I would never again be the woman begging to be chosen. That night, I didn't sleep in our bed. I lay on purpose on the living room sofa, not because it was comfortable, but because I refused to share a mattress with the weight of his lies. Still inside that house, I already needed to separate what was mine from what had never been, and the first boundary was physical space. Jordan paced back and forth, hallway to kitchen, kitchen to the bedroom door, like a trapped animal unsure where to stand. Sometimes he appeared in the doorway, staring at me, mouth slightly open as if searching for the right moment to speak. In the past, I would have helped him, softened the moment, created a bridge for the conversation to resolve. Not this time. I was done managing the damage he caused. At sunrise, before the light even settled, I texted Marcia, "I need you today. It's serious." She replied within a minute, "On my way." While I waited, I took a long, warm shower, almost ritualistic. Not to forget, but to mark the beginning of the after. I washed my face, my hair, my chest, and as the water ran over me, a thought surfaced, sharp and healing at the same time. I can't control what was done to me, but I can control what I accept from now on. I put on simple, comfortable clothes, not to impress anyone, but to breathe. When I stepped out, Jordan was at the doorway, standing like a boy waiting for punishment. "Naya, we need to decide what we're going to do." "Wrong," I said. "You need to deal with what you did. I'll decide what I'm going to do." He tried to come closer. "I love you, Naya. You know that." For a second, I looked at him. Years ago, that sentence would have shattered me. Now it rang hollow, like an echo in an abandoned room. You love the idea of having someone to hold you up, Jordan. Don't confuse dependency with love. He dropped his gaze, and for the first time, I wasn't the one shrinking. When Marcia arrived, she came straight in, zero ceremony. One glance at him, one glance at me, and she understood everything. "You ready?" she asked. "For the first time, I am," I said. I grabbed the suitcase I'd already set aside and added a few more things. Documents, some favorite clothes, medication, a photo of my mother. Walking through the house, choosing what to take, felt like revisiting the years I'd spent there. Every object carried a story. Some I left behind on purpose. I didn't need to carry every memory with me. I didn't need to. Jordan followed me down the hallway. "You're really going to throw our marriage away like this?" I stopped, still facing forward. "I didn't throw anything away, Jordan. You returned our marriage in installments. I just stopped picking it up." Silence. I continued. "I'm not leaving to hurt you. I'm leaving to save myself." Marcia took the suitcase, gave me that firm look, the kind that says, "I've got you." We walked out. Jordan stood in the doorway, eyes filled with something that might have been regret or just fear. At that point, I didn't care enough to distinguish. At Marcia's house, the silence sounded different. Not threatening, not punishing, restorative. She made strong coffee, left a clean towel, lent me pajamas. Small things, but things I hadn't received in a long time. Unasked for care. In the following days, I began reorganizing my life not inside fantasy, but in reality. I spoke with an attorney recommended by one of Marsha's colleagues. I explained everything, not dramatizing, not minimizing, just truth. Hearing someone outside my world say I wasn't crazy, that I had rights, that wanting to separate wasn't wrong, lifted a weight off my shoulders I didn't even know I was carrying. I didn't dive into deep legal details. I simply began the conversation, asked questions, understood what the process would look like if I moved forward. And the more I learned, the more obvious it became staying where I was had been the real danger, emotionally and even financially. I changed my passwords, opened a separate bank account, and started listing what belonged to me, what belonged to him, what had been purchased jointly. I documented, through text, everything he'd confessed, not to humiliate him, but because men who lie emotionally lie historically. I needed proof of what I had heard. At the same time, I reorganized something even more vital, my internal routine. Marsha and I started walking in the afternoons. At first, I just walked, mind overloaded. But slowly, I noticed things I hadn't seen in years. The wind in the trees, kids laughing far away, the smell of someone's dinner drifting through open windows. Small things, but they reminded me that there is life outside sorrow. Jordan kept texting in waves. One moment, guilty. I messed everything up. I can't live without you. The next, defensive. You're overreacting. Everybody makes mistakes. Then victimizing. You're not even going to try to fix what we had? I read them, breathed, saved what I needed, responded rarely. And when I did answer, it was brief, clear, with no openings. I'm taking care of myself. I'm not going back to the same dynamic. Seek professional help. I was no longer his emotional refuge. As for Elijah, he vanished. No texts, no explanations. Later, through others, I learned he'd stepped away entirely, not because of concern for me, but because facing the aftermath wasn't part of what he wanted. Even so, his silence was a form of justice. He lost his secret playground and had to face the role he played in a story built on cowardice. In time, other consequences emerged, subtle but precise. Family members started asking what was going on. I didn't start a campaign against Jordan, but I didn't cover for him either. When someone asked, I answered with simple, unvarnished truth. He cheated on me in every way. I chose to leave. Some people turn their backs, people who prefer a woman suffering quietly to a woman disrupting the comfort of others' expectations. But others came closer. A sister-in-law I thought I'd never connect with texted, I always sensed you weren't okay. If you need to talk, I'm here. Sometimes the truth opens unexpected doors. I didn't become a hero overnight. I didn't turn into a perfect, unbreakable woman. There were nights I cried softly in Marsha's guest bed. Fear of the future, fear of age, fear of starting over. But even through tears, I knew it was the crying of someone who was healing, not of someone being wounded. Justice didn't arrive as his public humiliation. It arrived as a life where I didn't wake up wondering what I had done wrong. It arrived at nights where I could sleep in peace, even if I missed something I now knew had never truly existed. And as time passed, one idea settled deeper and deeper. Real revenge wasn't watching him suffer, it was watching myself live. And that's exactly what I intended to do. Today, when I look back on that night in the kitchen, the pan burning on the stove, the message glowing on the screen, his silence shattering like thin glass, I don't remember only the pain. I remember the revelation. I remember the exact moment my world collapsed, and how, to my own surprise, I didn't collapse with it. I stayed standing. And sometimes staying standing is the quietest, most powerful victory a woman can claim. I won't romanticize my process. It wasn't a cinematic rebirth where I woke up glowing the next morning, full of new certainty. My beginning wasn't graceful. It was made of trembling steps, sleepless nights, swallowed tears, and quick calls to Marcia just to hear a voice that reminded me I wasn't alone in the world. There were mornings when I woke up and, out of habit, almost texted Jordan before remembering I shouldn't reach out to someone who never reached back. There were afternoons when I felt a strange longing, not for him, but for the idea of being loved, for the promise I'd made to myself on my wedding day, a promise I honored by myself for years without realizing love cannot survive on one person's effort. But slowly, something delicate began to grow in me. Not strength, not yet. Awareness. Awareness that I had survived what I once thought would destroy me. And that awareness turned into courage. I remember the day Marcia asked me to go for a walk in the small park near her house. I almost said no. I was embarrassed, afraid of running into someone who'd ask questions I wasn't ready to answer. But I went, took small steps, hesitant ones. Then I sat on a wooden bench and let the wind hit my face. And in that instant, I realized something. I hadn't felt the world without fear in years. It was there in that simple, quiet moment that I understood something that would reshape everything after it. Freedom has a scent, and I was learning to smell it again. Freedom smells like clean air, like laundry drying slowly on the line, like coffee brewed for myself, not to please anyone, like sleep that arrives without dread, like silence that doesn't hurt. As I rebuilt my life little by little, I began to see the size of my victory. Not because Jordan was hurting, but because I was breathing again. Months have passed now, and I can finally see clearly something I wish I'd understood sooner, but that arrived exactly when I was ready to handle it. I didn't lose a husband. I lost a weight. And that's not bitterness. It's emotional maturity. I lost someone who never chose me, and I found someone I hadn't seen in years, myself. Today, I sleep peacefully. I sleep alone, but not empty. I sleep knowing I don't have to compete for anyone's attention. I sleep knowing the bed is mine, the life is mine, the future is mine. And if you're listening to me now, woman, if something in your chest tightens while you hear my story, if you recognize yourself in the small details, I want to tell you something with the deepest sincerity I have. You are not broken. You are exhausted. And exhaustion is not failure. It is proof that you tried too hard in places where no one held you up when you fell. You deserve someone who doesn't use silence as a weapon. You deserve someone who doesn't love you in intervals. You deserve someone who doesn't have to lose you to understand your worth. And above all, you deserve yourself. If someday you feel like you're living something similar to what I lived, remember this sentence. The exit door always existed. You just need to allow yourself to walk through it. And when you do, don't think about what you're leaving behind. Think about what you're walking toward. Because there is life after humiliation. There is love after rejection. There is peace after chaos. And there is a whole, strong, mature, dignified woman waiting to emerge exactly on the other side of your courage. If this story touched your heart, leave your like, subscribe to the channel, leave a comment, and share. Your voice matters here, and I'm with you, truly.